Welcome to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast, where we provide constant improvement to businesses through timely, actionable financial solutions. Do you want answers to your financial questions? Email us at bsp@kaizencpas.com. I'm your host, Mark Valesky. Now let's get started.
Welcome to another episode of Kaizen Time. I'm joined by Clay Hamlin, a partner here at the firm. Clay, you are a business owner, correct?
I am.
And as a business owner, you have a workforce that you are responsible for.
Sure.
How do you decide the number of employees within a business?
Well, that's a great question, Mark. Because business owners have flexibility in terms of managing the business to maximize their profits, which means a very lean workforce, or to manage it for almost like a lifestyle where like they don't have to do anything. And now you have a lot of maybe what you'd call fat in the workforce. So a lot of flexibility, and that will reduce your profit for sure. Mm-hmm. And it's like finding the golden mean, right? They talk about this in all kinds of aspects of life. Where's that golden place? Where's that happy place between maximizing your profits and, I guess you would say, minimizing your profits? And that is a really tough question. Generally, what you want to do is you want to maximize your profits with buffer.
Okay.
And that sounds maybe contradictory, like jumbo shrimp or something. But what you're really trying to do, because the business needs to be profitable in order to be sustainable.
Right.
You need to leave some in there. Mm-hmm. You also, even the business needs money buffer, cash buffer, in case something happens. People talk about having 6 months of savings or something is optimal in their personal bank accounts. Businesses also need buffer. They also need cash to serve to ride the ups and downs of the business cycles, and to make payroll and all those other things. So you need a cash buffer, but you also need a people buffer, which is what you were asking, is what was the right number of people. And you just need to look at your business and say, all right, well, let's say I'm an auto repair shop with 6 techs, or maybe 10 techs. If someone were to leave, if my best tech were to leave tomorrow, what does that mean for us? How many people would it take to replace that person? Because one of the things that we know about life is uncertain. And what do they say? Eat dessert, life is uncertain. Eat dessert first, life is uncertain. Well, in a business, there's going to be things that happen that you didn't expect. You look, at the beginning of 2026, we made all these plans, and already some of the things that we were thinking wouldn't happen have already happened. Mm-hmm. And there is going to be more things that we either didn't expect, because that's really where the risk is in things, right? Is the things you didn't think of, the things you didn't know about.
And unfortunately, those play a major role in our lives.
They do.
Right? You can do all the planning in the world, and then, which, if everything went to plan, it'd be great.
But it never does. Just never.
Correct.
And so, or for example, in World War II, the United States was kind of sitting on the sidelines and thought they were going to sit by the sidelines until Japan came in and bombed Pearl Harbor.
Right.
All of a sudden, no one expected that. Mm-hmm. And now all of a sudden we are involved. So, in businesses, some good things are going to happen and some bad things are going to happen. And so you need to leave enough buffer in there for the things that you never saw coming. Because as a business owner, you're the one that has to remain calm and spread that calmness to your team when the bad things happen. But if you are running the ship so lean that you now have to become the person that is the doer
You have to
of
step
all these
in.
things, and now you can't really spread the calm, and that sort of lack of calm then spreads to others, and all of a sudden chaos starts to happen.
So what I'm kind of hearing, and correct me if I'm wrong, if we're running lean, that'd be someone who has like a 3% body fat, right?
Yes, correct.
And someone they're running fat, they're like 15%. So finding that healthy where you can still run, but hey, if I don't get a meal for a couple days, you're still going to be all right.
Yeah. So like
you can run efficiently.
So like when I over the years talk with my dad about his belly fat, and he laughs and just says, "Well, that's my insurance policy against famine," and it's a similar type of thing, right?
Right. Yep.
Right. And businesses need their insurance policy against famine. There's got to be a certain. I know there's a cost to it, just like having fat in your body maybe costs you some time in your life. Takes maybe some years or months or weeks off of your life. I don't know, for having too much body fat. But running super lean, 3% body fat, can possibly also be detrimental. Like a lot of older people, and they're in the hospital, when you look at them, they're emaciated. And I think part of that is they've just lost all of their body fat, and that probably maybe even, I'm not a doctor here. This is total speculation, right?
Yeah.
I'm now jumping into the
Remember,
deep.
this is an accounting firm.
I'm in the deep end here, but maybe that also leads to a shorter life when they just have no hardly any muscle or body fat left.
Well, so let's get back into the workforce here, because you are going to lose employees. It is the nature of the business. It is very naive to think that your employee, everyone that you hire, will retire there. It's just not how the world works.
Correct.
So as we kind of get back to trying to figure out that magical number or percentage or whatever, part of that calculation is employee retention, right?
Employee retention and having that buffer. And I don't have you should have a 10% buffer or a 20%.
Yep.
If you're say a 1,000-person company, do you need the same amount of buffer as say like a 5-person company? Well, if you're a 5-person company and you lose one, that's 20%.
Yeah, that's considerable loss.
You would need, I would think you would need a 20% buffer. But if you're a 1,000-person company, that's 200 people. Do you need a 200-person buffer? Probably not. So you can run it leaner, and this is maybe why size matters in some ways, is you could actually run it somewhat leaner as a much larger operation.
And you have more time, right? Like you have time for, hey, I lost some people, my 1,000-person company. You lose it, you can get it back. It's a temporary thing. 20% is quite large. How long can you run down 20%? There's 1,000 people, you lose your 20%. There are more people to kind of share the load for a while.
Right. And it's really difficult when you're a very, very small operation, because, if you're carrying a 20% buffer because you're carrying one extra person in a 5-person team, how many businesses make 20% that they can have a 20% buffer?
I think often
that's hard.
That's when, especially small companies, you see them hiring a part-timer. Yeah, eventually move into they'll start incrementally. So instead of going 1 to 2 to 3 to 4, maybe like a 2.5.
So that's where you need to get more creative. Maybe you have a gig person for a while.
Absolutely.
Maybe you have a couple of friends in the industry, and you have an arrangement that, hey, if I lose one, we can share somebody, or get creative, because it's very difficult to carry a 20% overhead.
Yeah,
and leverage. Big companies are operating with a lot of leverage, and one of those is in terms of actual number of bodies that they need to carry for buffer is much smaller as a percentage their total.
Okay. So Clay, to kind of answer this, and I would love to know your thoughts as well. With the loss of employees, what's kind of the key metrics, like average employee duration? Need to know kind of the seasons where you see, employees leaving, coming, going. Is there anything along those lines that you've kind of had?
So in our own firm, after tax season, depending upon how hard the tax season was, you can see some attrition.
Mm-hmm.
You can also see it in weather. Like if the weather is like horrendous, surprisingly, you can see some attrition. Like people are like, I'm out of here. So it doesn't take much, right? It's really difficult to tell exactly in any business when that may or may not happen. Oftentimes, if you see someone, a number of changes in their life, they went through maybe a divorce, or maybe they moved, or maybe they did any other sort of big thing, they'll oftentimes add another big thing. So that's another thing to watch out for, is someone making any sort of major change in their life, they might just add on one more, because they're already, the inertia of making major changes is already there. And to add one more on doesn't seem all that hard.
Right. Okay.
In terms of like overall, I think every business owner needs to sit down and say, how much buffer can I live with? How much buffer can I sustain economically? And am I willing to jump in if it gets too bad?
I mean, in many ways, this is how much risk are you willing to take?
How much risk?
Right.
Yep.
And I want to lean into AI now, because a lot of people are just leaning into AI heavily, right? Oh, hey, I don't need 10 people to do this. I can use 8, right?
Correct.
Or whatever the reason. So a lot of this is, hey, they're running even leaner than before. But now you may have these key players that you had, that you relied on, that maybe didn't even need AI to be functional. And now you're using other people who are heavily leaning on it. And what if it's just not available? For whatever reason, you don't have those people who are capable of doing that simple work. On previous podcasts, we talked about some people entering the workforce that had, they're lacking skill sets, like basic stuff like math and English.
Yeah, that's true.
So those are the things that are really a concern if you run too lean. And, for example, if you're leaning on a workforce that's all young, they have no mentors.
Right. Yeah, it's an interesting concept. So the first part of the question was, well, what if like AI just sort of blacks out for a while?
Mm-hmm. What if the tools aren't available for whatever reason?
Right. So we ran this business without AI for a very long time. We could still do that. Mm-hmm. AI makes our life easier. In some ways it makes it easier. In some ways it makes it more complicated, actually. We're able to answer more types of questions faster. Mm-hmm. But we also seem to get more questions now. And the questions that we get oftentimes are more pointed. So people are using AI to ask us questions. And then we respond with AI. And so it's an interesting world right now in terms of using AI. But literally, I mean, we've gotten some questions where like, I can't believe someone's actually asking. It's a good question, but we've never seen never run into a question like that. Mm-hmm. In our own minds we have, but not from a client. And people may be doing that with, say, a car. What's wrong with my car? And they plug in the different things, what they're hearing. Mm-hmm. I don't know. Maybe even take an audio thing, mm-hmm. and ask AI, here's what my car sounds like. What do you think this is? I don't know. So, and then it'll come up with ideas that sound pretty decisive. Mm-hmm. That doesn't make them right, but
correct.
But if you don't have it at all, life will go back to what it was maybe 2 years ago, just not that long ago, kind of pre-AI, and maybe even just a year ago.
It's funny, not to derail this entire conversation, but I've written books, and I'm really glad I did them when I did, because AI just didn't exist back then.
Yeah.
Because nowadays, if you see something like, oh, I did all this, I'm like, how much did you actually do?
Yeah. That's a good point.
And the same with someone's resume. Hey, I did all this stuff. Well, how much did you actually do?
Correct. Right?
Now there's a difference
And you
between.
can tell sometimes some of the resumes we get are like,
Oh yeah,
oof.
I'm certain that's the case. So getting back to kind of the overall point of this, which is, how lean do you want to run your workforce? Is it really just a question of what risk level the business owner wants to sit at?
Pretty much. The level of staffing and the amount of risk you're willing to take from a staffing perspective, I think goes hand in hand. And we've seen a lot of businesses run it too lean. Then you have a different decision. Then you have a decision of saying, all right, well, are we going to then sort of restrict or constrict sales? Because that's another, like if you want to run it super lean,
Mm-hmm.
and an event happens, which it will, how do you then react to that and say, well, maybe I can jump in and take that person's place for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe we say, well, we're going to constrict sales. You have to do something, because reputation is also something that moves faster than it used to.
Mm-hmm.
30 years ago, reputation moved slowly. And today's Google, when you get Google ratings, whatever you call it, it's escaped my mind at the moment.
Your reviews.
Google reviews. Thank
Yep.
you. I knew the R it was there. I'm like, no, that's not it. So when you get the Google reviews and other types of Yelp reviews, whatever else, I mean, reputational risk is significant these days, and moves fast. And so if you have somebody leave and it affects what you can do, but you still have people come in, and you just make them wait, or you do shoddy work, all of a sudden you have reputational risk. That can be, business threatening.
Yeah. And it's no one's fault either. This could be as simple as, hey, I run a shop, right? One of my techs is out. It wasn't planned for whatever reason. Maybe they got in a car accident. They're going to be out for a while. How do you address that? Right? Do you reduce the amount of new incoming business? Say, hey, I can't take this. If you address things on the front end, clients are okay with that, but you have to react to it fast. And unfortunately, when you run too lean, you have to respond even faster.
Yeah, and your decisions, your choices, I guess, not your decisions, become more difficult. It's a kind of a thing in business that it's difficult to turn on and off sales. Mm-hmm. So like if you tell customers, hey, we can't deal with you anymore, they probably will never come back. And so now you've lost a lifer potential customer. So, someone who could have been with you for a long time, or maybe was with you for a long time, and now they're like, I can't deal with you anymore. Sorry, I had somebody leave.
Yep. So
the decisions then become more complicated.
Clay, as we wrap up, is there anything else you want to say about?
I think we touched the highlights. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
You've been listening to Kaizen Time, part of the Blood, Sweat, and Business podcast. If you like what you heard, subscribe and leave a 5-star review. This podcast has been brought to you by Kaizen CPAs Plus Advisors, providing advisory and accounting services to help you grow your business. Learn more at kaizencpas.com or email us at bsb@kaizencpas.com.